Hey guys, welcome to Riding Shotgun. I'm your host, Dr. Lorie Lofquist. This podcast is going to take you for a ride in the passenger seat. So climb aboard so that you can get armed with everything that you need to know in order to make health and wellness decisions that are important for your life and your family's life. So sit back, relax, and let's roll. Today I want to talk about an addiction that most Americans have today. It's a sugar addiction. And whenever I'm talking about sugar addiction, or whenever I talk about addiction in general, most people would say, oh, drug addiction. Sugar addiction is much like a drug addiction in America. We are all super sensitive to sugar. Type 2 diabetes is on a massive, massive rise. Type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance, basically. So it is when your body has so much sugar running around that it doesn't know what to do with it. Used to be known as adult onset diabetes, but not anymore. We are so addicted to sugar and we're passing that on to our kids that now type 2 diabetes is starting to show up in children, which is sad because that leads to metabolic syndrome. It leads to increased risk of high cholesterol, high blood pressure, increased BMI. These children are becoming obese, and it's all because us parents are teaching our children to eat sugar all the time. And these kids are, and they're not as active as they used to be. They're sitting on Xbox. So let's talk about sugar addiction. There's a couple of ways to break the cycle. And I know a lot of you, especially those of you severely addicted to sugar, are going to turn your nose up and you're going to balk at these suggestions. But you want to start substituting some fruit. If you substitute fruit when you're having a sugar craving rather than eating gummy bears or a candy bar or something like that, then you're actually going to start moving yourself in the right direction. Fruit has fructose in it. It doesn't have the same sugar as all those candies and sodas and things that we normally drink. Fructose in nature is found with fiber. This is why, recently there was a big article that published that said, oh, juice is bad. It's actually going to increase, your blood sugar and this and that. Well, yeah, they take out the fiber component of the fruit and they only give you the fructose component of the fruit. So while I agree with that, if you have enough fiber in your diet, juice isn't necessarily bad per se. You just have to watch what you're doing with it and what you're eating with it. So as far as the sugar addiction goes, ditch artificial sweeteners altogether. I've been saying this for years. I'm talking about sucralose, saccharin, aspartame, all these things that everybody's like, oh, it's 0 calorie. Oh, it's so good for you. No, it's not. Aspartame clogs your liver. Your liver is your primary detoxifying organ. So when it's trying to detoxify you and you're clogging it up with aspartame, it can't do its job. Let's look at sucralose. Sucralose is commonly known as Splenda. So the FDA publishes a list. It's called the GRAS list, or the generally recognized as safe list. So sucralose, Splenda, that everybody thought was so grand, got downgraded in 2003 from a safe to a caution because it was found in a study to actually be linked to increased rates of leukemia. So we're seeing all these people getting cancer and we're like, why is cancer so prevalent nowadays? Because what we're putting in our body. What we put in our bodies is building blocks to what we are going to be made out of. And if you're feeding cancer, you're giving it a place to take root, to take hold. Everyone has a risk of everyone has a risk of getting cancer. It's whether or not we turn on that mutation or not. Depends on when we get cancer or we don't get cancer over our lives. So let's talk about saccharin. Saccharin, a long time ago, the FDA said, oh yeah, saccharin's fine. Then a study comes out saying it had an increased risk of cancer. This was in the 50s. I'd have to check my year to be perfectly clear. So in the 50s, they said, no. We're not going to allow you to put saccharin in food anymore because it's been shown to increase cancer rates in lab rats. So they take it off the GRAS list. And then Congress is like, oh, but that's not really fair. How about we put a label on it that says it's been shown to increase risk of cancer? So some of you listening to this may remember this, but do you remember on the back of Sweet and Low packets, because that's saccharin, do you remember on the back of Sweet and Low packets when it used to have that little white box, that said has been known to increase cancer rates in lab rats? Right? So they put that on there. So then they said, okay, well, now Americans can make the choice whether or not they want to use it or they don't want to use it. And that was supposed to be okay. But then, so after that, in the 80s, 90s, Congress goes, do we really need to put that warning label on there anymore? Do people really care? Do they need it on there? Nah. So Congress passes a law saying that they no longer have to put that warning label on there. And so now Sweet and Low packets are running around. They don't even have a warning label on it. I bet some of you never even knew that they had that warning label on it. You shouldn't be using artificial sweeteners, people. They are not safe. They are a chemical that you are adding to your food that is not safe for you to add to your food. Plus, studies show that if you use it, it doesn't decrease your cravings for sweets. It increases your cravings for sweets. Let's talk about another craving that's common. A lot of people crave chocolate. A lot of times if you're craving chocolate, you have a magnesium deficiency. Magnesium deficiency is rampant in the United States. But if you're craving chocolate, more likely than not, you have low magnesium, which is an issue. So do we eat chocolate? You can, but to get the best magnesium levels in chocolate, you need to be eating dark chocolate, 70% cocoa or better. Which that's not really my taste. It's kind of bitter, but if you want to eat dark chocolate and increase your magnesium levels, great. Otherwise, you need to get it from your diet, and that will stop those cravings. The other thing, if you're hungry and you're craving sugar, eat a piece of fruit. I'm not kidding. If you are not hungry enough to eat an apple, then you are not really hungry. I mean, think about that. If you are not hungry enough to eat an orange, you're not really hungry. As far as breaking that sugar addiction, the best way to do it is to just cut it off. Cut it out completely. Increase your water supply. Cut off all sugar sources. Sugar is even in your bread. It's in everything that we buy that's processed. High fructose corn syrup, which is getting ready to change its name, which that's a whole labeling thing. We'll talk about that later too. But sugar is in absolutely everything that's processed in one way, shape, or form. So cut it all out. Cut it all out, and then you'll go back to eating fruit, for instance, and it's so much sweeter. Take, for example, I used to have a huge Pepsi addiction. If you knew me back before I started making all of my lifestyle changes, you would have almost always seen me with a Pepsi in my hand. I loved Pepsi. I've grown up drinking Pepsi my whole entire life. About a year ago, I said, you know what? I am going to cut Pepsi out. I'm spending a lot of money on it, A. B, I know it's not good for me. And C, I'm watching how my children are following in my footsteps and drinking Pepsi at every single meal and every single chance that they get. To the point where I know that this is a cycle that needs to be broken. Now that I've cut out Pepsi, the other day I had a migraine and I thought, oh, well, let me just try a little sip of Pepsi. Maybe the caffeine, will help reduce this headache. I take a sip of Pepsi and it is gnawingly to the point where I almost immediately spit it out. So sweet. I can't believe how much my taste buds have changed over this year to the point where just in even a sip of Pepsi, it tasted like I just put a tablespoon of pure maple syrup in my mouth. It was that bad. I mean, not that maple syrup is bad. It was so sweet, almost pucker your jaw sweet. I used to put back probably a case of soda a day of this sweet stuff. And then I wonder why my waistline got out of control. Anyway, so we're talking about sugar addiction. If you guys need steps and a process to break that sugar addiction, by all means, start following our Facebook page, CWC Chiropractic. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Give our office a call if you need a nutritional consultation. We're always happy to help. It's 636-825-6555. Until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, what a ride. I hope you enjoyed it. Now that you have been armed with that knowledge, I want you to go out and apply it. Know someone who could benefit from this info? Please share it with them. We'd love to hear from you. Call or text us at 636-678-4342. Or better yet, stop in and say hi the next time you're around our Fenton, Missouri office.